Admiral Isabella Reyes stood at the observation deck of the Earth diplomatic vessel Humanity's Hope, watching the massive Confederation space station grow larger against the backdrop of distant stars. Her weathered face, marked by decades of service in Earth's Space Force, remained impassive, but her dark eyes sparkled with barely contained amusement. The Galactic Confederation had no idea what was coming. "Admiral, they're hailing us," Lieutenant Reg Patel announced from his communications station. "The Confederation High Council is ready to receive our delegation." Reyes straightened her midnight blue uniform, adorned with the subtle golden insignia of Earth's Defense Force. "Remind me, Lieutenant, what's the betting pool up to now?" Patel grinned. 95% of the Confederation representatives believe we're here to surrender our military autonomy. The other 5% think we're simply insane. "Perfect," Reyes murmured. "Absolutely perfect." The docking procedure went smoothly, perhaps the only thing the Confederation didn't treat with obvious condescension. As Reyes led her small delegation through the station's pristine white corridors, she noted the various alien species they passed. The crystalline Zexthari, floating in their containment fields. The towering Nephilim with their multiple sets of arms. The serpentine Sestak gliding on their gravity platforms. All of them watching the human delegation with varying degrees of superiority and amusement. The High Council chamber was a vast amphitheater, its walls adorned with holographic displays, showing the 1,000 worlds under Confederation control. The council members sat in elevated pods arranged in concentric circles, looking down at the human delegation like scientists observing particularly interesting bacteria. High Councillor Zinthar, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate mechanical shell, spoke first. "Representatives of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Confederation of Advanced Species. Your request for this audience was unexpected, given your civilization's current development level." Reyes stepped forward, her boots kicking against the polished floor. "High Councillor, esteemed members of the Council, we come with a proposition." A proposition. The word rippled through the chamber, accompanied by various sounds of amusement. "Your species has barely mastered basic faster-than-light travel," a Nephilim councillor rumbled. "Indeed," Reyes acknowledged, her voice carrying a hint of humility that would have made her crew members suspicious. They knew their admiral never did humble. "Which is why we wish to demonstrate our commitment to peaceful cooperation with the Confederation." She paused, letting the moment stretch. "We request permission to conduct a weapons test at your K789 testing grounds." The chamber erupted in laughter. Even the energy beings flickered with mirth. K789 was legendary, a planet where the Confederation tested its most devastating weapons. Nothing had ever managed to do more than scratch its surface. High Councillor Zinthar's mechanical shell vibrated with amusement. "You wish to test your primitive weapons on K789, the same planet that survived a direct hit from a Zexthari quantum annihilator." "Yes," Reyes replied simply, "and we propose a wager. If our demonstration fails to meet your expectations, Earth will immediately submit to Confederation oversight. We will surrender all military autonomy and accept protectorate status." The laughter died abruptly. The council members exchanged glances, their various physiologies expressing universal interest. "And if you succeed?" Zinthar asked, mechanical fingers drilling against his pod's surface. Reyes smiled, and for a brief moment, several council members felt an inexplicable chill. "Then Earth joins the Confederation as a full member. Immediately. With all rights and privileges thereof." Chaos erupted in the chamber. Multiple species shouting, broadcasting, or telepathically projecting their objections. It took several minutes for order to be restored. "This is unprecedented," a assistant councillor hissed. "Full membership requires decades of preparation, cultural integration, technological assessment. Those are your terms." Zainthar interrupted, leaning forward in his pod. "Everything on a single demonstration." "Everything," Reyes confirmed. She reached into her pocket and withdrew an antique pocket watch, its golden surface gleaming under the chamber's lights. "Shall we say next week? We'll need time to transport our equipment to K789. The council chamber buzzed with private communications as the members consulted each other. Rita stood patiently, the pocket watch dangling from her fingers, its gentle ticking barely audible in the vast space. Finally, Zainthar spoke. "The council accepts your terms, representative of Earth. In one standard week, you will demonstrate your weapons at K789. Should you fail, Earth becomes a protectorate. Should you succeed, however unlikely that may be, you will have earned your place among us." Reyes bowed slightly, tucking the watch away. "Thank you, High Counselor. We look forward to the demonstration." As the human delegation departed, none of the council members noticed the slight smile playing at the corners of Reyes's mouth. None of them thought to ask why she had brought an ancient timepiece to such a crucial meeting. And none of them realized that the watch's steady ticking was counting down to more than just their appointment at K789. Back aboard Humanity's Hope, Lieutenant Patel approached his admiral. "They bought it completely, didn't they?" Reyes watched the space station receding through the observation window. "Book, line and sinker, as my grandfather used to say." She touched the pocket watch, now safely stored in her uniform pocket. "Send word to Project Prometheus. Tell Director Novak it's time to show the galaxy why humanity never signed the Quantum Manipulation Treaty." "Yes, Admiral." Patel hesitated. "Do you think they'll ever forgive us for this deception?" Reyes's reflection smiled in the reinforced glass. "Forgiveness is overrated, Lieutenant. Sometimes respect has to be earned the hard way." She turned away from the window. "Set course for Earth. We have a demonstration to prepare for." The massive engines of humanity's hope hummed to life, carrying their cargo of secrets and surprises back toward the blue planet that the Confederation had so grievously underestimated. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Director Kira Novak stood before a holographic display of what appeared to be a simple metal sphere. The object rotated slowly, its polished surface reflecting the blue glow of the surrounding monitors. To any outside observer, it would have seemed absurdly primitive, especially for a civilization's supposedly ultimate weapon. That was exactly the point. "Status report," she commanded, her voice echoing through the cavernous underground chamber. The space around her buzzed with activity as hundreds of Earth's brightest minds worked at their stations, each focused on a different aspect of Project Prometheus. Dr. Rashid Rahman, head of quantum mechanics, stepped forward. His usually immaculate lab coat showed signs of having been worn for several days straight. "The quantum entanglement matrix is stable at 99.99%. We've successfully linked the primary sphere with all 742 secondary nodes. Power consumption minimal as designed. The Confederation's sensors won't detect anything beyond standard fusion emissions." Rashid allowed himself a small smile. "They'll think we're running this on the equivalent of a children's science project." Kira nodded, her silver-streaked black hair catching the light of the displays. She remembered the day, 15 years ago, when they'd made the breakthrough. How young researcher James O'Neill had stumbled upon the quantum manipulation principle that the Confederation had somehow missed, or perhaps deliberately ignored. The aliens had built their entire civilization on brute force approaches. Bigger weapons, stronger shields, more powerful engines. Humanity had gone in the opposite direction. Director. A young technician called out from her station. Priority message from Admiral Reyes. The Council took the bait. We have 7 days. A ripple of excitement passed through the chamber. 15 years of preparation, of careful hiding, of letting the Confederation believe Earth was just another primitive species struggling to reach the stars. It would all come down to the next week. Dr. Rahman, Kira turned to her colleague, begin final calibrations. Lieutenant Pierce, prepare the transport team. And someone get Dr. O'Neill out of his lab. He's going to want to see this. The chamber erupted into organized chaos as the Project Prometheus team began their final preparations. In his private lab, James O'Neill barely noticed the commotion. The gangly physicist was focused entirely on a mathematical formula floating in the air before him, his augmented reality implants projecting the equations that had changed humanity's destiny. James. Kira's voice broke through his concentration. It's time. O'Neill blinked, his implants deactivating. They agreed. They actually agreed to let us test it on K789. Their arrogance made it inevitable. Kira walked over to his workstation, looking at the various models and prototypes scattered across it. They think they're humoring us, letting the primitive humans embarrass themselves before accepting their rightful place as a protectorate. O'Neill picked up a small sphere, similar to the one in the main chamber, but only the size of a marble. Did you ever wonder if we're going too far? The quantum manipulation effect. Once they see what it can do. They gave us no choice. Kira's voice hardened. You remember the Proxima Centauri incident? How they accidentally let those gravity bombs slip into the hands of pirates. How many colonists died while the Confederation debated whether we were advanced enough to deserve their help? The physicist nodded slowly. The attack on humanity's first extrasolar colony had been a turning point. The Confederation had made it clear. Either humanity accepted its place as a controlled, subjugated species, or they would face more such accidents. Instead, humanity had chosen the third option. In the main chamber, the preparation continued. The primary sphere was carefully loaded into a containment unit, its surface now marked with subtle patterns that looked decorative, but were actually quantum-etched guidance systems. The secondary nodes, each no larger than a grain of sand, were stored in a separate container that looked like a simple toolbox. Transport team reports ready, Lieutenant Jessica Pierce announced. Her cybernetic eye scanned through multiple reports simultaneously. The Confederation Observation Committee will arrive at K789 in 6 days. They're bringing representatives from all major species. Perfect. Kira smiled. The bigger the audience, the better. She walked to a secure communications terminal and began recording a message to Admiral Reyes. Admiral, Project Prometheus is go. Primary and secondary systems are functioning within expected parameters. We're ready to show the Confederation why humanity survived despite their best efforts to keep us down. As she spoke, O'Neill was running final calculations on his tablet. The numbers confirmed what they already knew. The quantum manipulation field would work exactly as designed. The Confederation, with all its advanced technology, had never considered this approach because it went against their basic understanding of physics. They believed bigger was better. That raw power was the key to controlling the universe. They had never stopped to consider that sometimes. The smallest changes could have the biggest impacts. Director, Pierce called out, "We're receiving additional data from our spies in the Confederation. They're treating this like a festival. Multiple species are sending observation ships. They're even setting up betting pools on how quickly our weapon will fail." "Let them laugh," Kira replied, watching as the primary sphere was secured for transport. "They've spent centuries building their civilization on the assumption that they understand everything about how the universe works. In 7 days, we're going to show them just how wrong they are." The chamber's massive doors began to open, revealing the transport ship that would carry Project Prometheus to its destiny. As the teams began loading their equipment, Kira touched the small sphere pendant hanging around her neck, an exact replica of their weapon's outer shell. It had become something of a lucky charm among the project members. "Director," O'Neill approached her one last time. "What do you think they'll do when they realize? When they understand what we've created?" Kira watched as the primary sphere disappeared into the transport ship's hold. "They'll do what every empire does when it realizes it's not as powerful as it thought." She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "They'll panic." The massive underground facility began powering down as the teams prepared for departure. In 7 days, the galaxy would change forever. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a simple metal sphere held the key to humanity's future. Planet K789 hung in space like a scarred warrior, its surface marked by countless weapons tests spanning centuries of Confederation history. Massive craters, some visible from orbit, testified to the devastating power of weapons that had failed to destroy this specially engineered world. The planet's atmosphere swirled with strange colors, aftereffects of quantum detonations, gravity bombs, and dimensional warheads. The Confederation observation fleet arrived in a display of overwhelming force. Hundreds of ships, representing every major species, formed a perfect circle around the testing area. Their sensors were fully activated, eager to document what they assumed would be humanity's humiliation. Aboard the Confederation flagship, Eternal Dominance, First Observer Ixalan adjusted his crystalline form to better process the visual data. The Zizix scientist had specifically requested to lead the observation team, curious about these humans who dared to challenge the natural order. "The human transport vessel approaches," announced Second Observer Thex, her serpentine body coiled around a gravity throne. "Preliminary scans indicate minimal energy signatures. Surely this must be an error." Ixalan's crystalline structure flickered with amusement. "No error. They appear to be powering their entire operation with basic fusion reactors." How charming. The human transport ship, dwarfed by the Confederation vessels, moved into position above K789. It looked absurdly vulnerable among the massive alien warships, like a rowboat among aircraft carriers. Admiral Reyes's voice came through the communication channels, calm and professional. "Confederation Observatory, this is Earth Transport Prometheus, requesting permission to begin deployment." "Granted," Ixalan responded, all 6 of his sensory clusters focused on the human ship. "Though I must ask, Admiral, are you certain you wish to proceed? There is no shame in withdrawing now." A slight pause. "We appreciate your concern, First Observer, but will continue as planned." The transport's cargo bay opened, revealing what appeared to be a simple deployment pod. The Confederation observers watched in collective disbelief as a single small sphere, no larger than a human vehicle, was carefully lowered toward the planet's surface. "Is this some kind of joke?" Thex demanded, her scales rippling with indignation. "They mean to test that against K789. Ixalan's crystalline structure vibrated with barely contained mirth. Perhaps it's some form of primitive nuclear device, though even their most powerful nuclear weapons wouldn't scratch K789's surface. The deployment pod touched down in the designated testing zone, a vast plain surrounded by mountains of ultra-hardened materials. The sphere was positioned precisely in the center, its polished surface reflecting the alien sun's light. From the human transport, Director Novak's voice joined the channel. "We're ready to begin preliminary calibrations. Request permission to deploy support equipment." "Granted," Ixalan responded, then switched to a private channel with his fellow observers. Their support equipment appears to be nothing more than basic scanning tools. No power signatures beyond civilian-grade technology. The observation fleet's sensors recorded everything as small drones from the human ship descended to the surface, deploying what looked like simple sensor arrays around the sphere. To the Confederation observers, it all seemed almost painfully primitive. What none of them noticed was Lieutenant Pierce, working quietly in the transport's sensor control room, using the drones to deploy the microscopic secondary nodes in a precise pattern around the testing zone. The nodes, virtually invisible to even the most advanced Confederation scanners, settled into their predetermined positions. "Director," Pierce whispered into her secured channel, "secondary deployment complete. The quantum web is ready." Back on the observation deck, Dr. O'Neill stood beside Director Novak, both watching the proceedings through reinforced windows. "They really have no idea," he murmured. "All their advanced technology, and they can't see what's right in front of them." "That's always been their weakness," Novak replied quietly. "They're so convinced of their superiority that they never bothered to look beyond their own assumptions." Admiral Reyes's voice came through again, addressing the entire observation fleet. "Confederation observers, we're ready to begin the demonstration. We request that all ships maintain their current positions and keep their defensive shields activated. Safety protocols, you understand." The Confederation fleet rippled with amusement. Their shields were the most advanced in known space, capable of withstanding direct hits from quantum annihilators. The idea that they needed protection from whatever primitive device the humans had deployed was almost endearing. First Observer Ixalan's voice carried a patronizing tone. "Your concern for our safety is noted, Admiral. You may proceed when ready. Though I feel compelled to remind you, by the terms of our agreement, failure to produce a significant effect on K789 will result in Earth's immediate submission to Confederation authority." "Understood, First Observer." Was there a hint of amusement in the Admiral's voice? Beginning final countdown. On the planet's surface, the sphere began to hum softly. The sound was barely detectable, even to the Confederation's advanced sensors. The polished surface started to rotate slowly, those seemingly decorative patterns beginning to align in ways that should have been impossible according to normal physics. In the transport's control room, Dr. Roman's fingers flew over his console, monitoring the quantum entanglement matrix. All nodes responding. Quantum web stability at optimal levels. "We're ready." Director Novak took a deep breath, her hand touching the sphere pendant around her neck. 15 years of preparation, of secret development, of carefully orchestrated deception, all leading to this moment. She thought about all the humans who had died in the Proxima Centauri incident, about all the subtle ways the Confederation had tried to keep humanity dependent and controlled. "Begin the demonstration," she commanded. The sphere on the surface pulsed once, a barely visible ripple of energy spreading outward. The Confederation observers leaned forward, waiting for something more dramatic. Surely this couldn't be it. Then Dr. O'Neill smiled and whispered, "Welcome to the real quantum age." The universe held its breath, unaware that everything was about to change. The first sign that something was wrong came from a junior observer aboard the Eternal Dominance. "First observer, I'm detecting unusual quantum fluctuations across the testing zone." Ixolan dismissed the concern with a crystalline shimmer. Expected. Even primitive quantum manipulation causes minor disturbances. Then the surface of K789 began to change. It started subtly, a slight wavering, like heat distortion over hot pavement. The effect spread outward from the sphere in perfect concentric circles. Where it passed, the planet's supposedly indestructible surface began to shift. Impossible, Vex hissed, her instruments going haywire. The molecular structure of the surface is realigning itself. The quantum wave continued to spread, accelerating as it moved. The human sphere pulsed rhythmically, each beat sending out another wave of transformation. The planet's surface wasn't being destroyed. It was being fundamentally altered at the quantum level. All ships, full parata sensors. Ixolan ordered, his crystalline form vibrating with increasing alarm. "What are they doing? This violates every known principle of..." He never finished the sentence. The quantum cascade reached a critical point, and suddenly the entire surface of K789 transformed. The indestructible material that had withstood centuries of the most powerful weapons in known space simply changed state. Not melting, not breaking, but becoming something entirely different at its most fundamental level. From the human transport, Admiral Reyes' voice came through, calm as ever. "Phase 1 complete. Beginning Phase 2. Phase 2. Ixolan's voice cracked. "Stop this immediately. You don't understand what you're..." The sphere pulsed one final time. The entire planet shimmered, and then, in defiance of everything the Confederation thought they knew about physics, K789 began to fold in on itself. Not collapsing, not imploding, but folding, like a piece of paper being creased by an invisible hand. In the transport's control room, Dr. Raman watched his readings with satisfaction. Quantum reformation proceeding exactly as calculated. The entire planet's molecular structure has been rewritten and is responding to our quantum manipulations. Director Novak nodded. "Demonstrate the restoration sequence." Another pulse from the sphere, and K789 began to unfold. As it returned to its original shape, the surface was pristine. Every crater, every scar, every mark of centuries of weapons tests had vanished. The planet had been reset to its original state at the quantum level. The Confederation observation fleet hung in stunned silence. "Demonstration complete," Admiral Reyes announced. "As you can see, we didn't destroy K789. We simply rewrote its fundamental nature. We could have transformed it into anything we wanted, or removed it from existence entirely. Instead, we chose to restore it." The implications hit the observers like a physical blow. This wasn't just a weapon. It was control over reality itself at the quantum level. And the humans had mastered it using technology so subtle it appeared primitive to Confederation sensors. The aftermath was exactly what Director Novak had predicted. The Confederation Council convened an emergency session before the human delegation had even returned to Earth. "They're terrified," Lieutenant Pierce reported, "monitoring the quantum encrypted communications they definitely weren't supposed to be able to intercept. The Council is split between those who want to declare us an immediate threat to galactic security and those who want to offer us everything we could possibly want to keep us happy." Admiral Reyes stood at her familiar spot on the observation deck, watching the Earth grow larger in the viewport. And that's why we won't accept either option. Humanity doesn't need gifts or threats from the Confederation. We've earned our place among the stars. In the weeks that followed, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted dramatically. The Confederation, faced with irrefutable proof that their technological superiority was an illusion, had to adapt to a new reality. One where humanity wasn't just another primitive species to be controlled or exploited, but an equal player in galactic politics. Director Novak stood before the United Earth Council, delivering her final report on Project Prometheus. The quantum manipulation technology has been successfully demonstrated. As expected, the Confederation never considered that the true power of quantum mechanics lay not in brute force manipulation, but in subtle, precise control at the smallest scales. And the secondary nodes? A council member asked. Permanently embedded in the quantum fabric of K789, Dr. O'Neill answered. If anyone attempts to study the planet to replicate our technology, the nodes will detect it and initiate a random quantum shift. They'll never get consistent readings. The changes rippled through galactic society. Trade agreements were renegotiated. Technology-sharing treaties were established, this time as true exchanges rather than carefully controlled handouts. The pirates who had attacked Proxima Centauri mysteriously disappeared, their ships found drifting in space, transformed into abstract art at the quantum level. 1 year after the demonstration, Admiral Reyes stood before the Confederation Council again. This time, she wasn't in the petitioner's circle, but at the High Council podium itself. Humanity accepts its place on the Council, she announced, not as supplicants or subordinates, but as equals. We bring with us not just our quantum manipulation technology, but our perspective. Our understanding that true advancement comes not from overwhelming force, but from seeing the universe in new ways. She touched the pocket watch, still keeping perfect time. We look forward to a new era of genuine cooperation, one where no species needs to prove its worth through force, and where the wonders of the universe are explored together as equals. The council chamber, once filled with dismissive laughter at humanity's presumption, now rang with genuine applause. The age of Confederation dominance was over. The age of true galactic partnership had begun. And in a secure facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Director Novak watched a new class of quantum physicists, human and alien, begin their training. On her screen, a simple message from Admiral Reyes flashed. Project Prometheus Phase 2, approved. Let's show them what partnership really means. The quantum age had truly begun, and humanity was leading the way. The end.